Citizen Service, Secretary Committee. Thank you. Honorable Chair, good afternoon. I'm Secretary Process and the Secretary Procedural.
Thank you for the introduction, Honourable Minister. We brought you with clear checklist. Government has not made declaration that there is no COVID, so Honourable Minister, sorry for the interference. We invited you with clear checklist, and I want to admit that we have gotten the copies of your submission. So now we request you to take us through.
Thank you, Chair. I will begin with page 2. Copy of the report that you forwarded. Thank you. I'm beginning with page 2. Just to give an introduction, that the Karamoja sub-region has experienced insecurity for many years. And the insecurity is largely in the form of recurring violence and conflict.
Yes, please.
The procedural point I want to raise is the submission of the Honorable Minister is not audible enough. Possibly she can remove her mask so that we're able to hear.
Can you increase on your...
I think, Honorable Chair, I think I'm audible enough now.
Yes, proceed. Let's get...
The insecurity is largely in the form of recurring violence and conflict between different communities in the region.
Yes.
And the main driver of this insecurity in the region is cattle rustling. The practice has over time become more violent and deadly with the proliferation of small arms and the involvement of criminal gangs exacerbating the situation. The insecurity has led to socio-economic loss, which has left the region with the highest poverty levels in comparison to other regions and the national average. Now, the government of Uganda has over time implemented a number of interventions to restore and promote security in Karamoja sub-region. Now, in December 2001, the government launched the disarmament program to rid the region of illegal guns that had caused untold suffering to the people and undermined the development of the region. The disarmament was initially by force, but later became voluntary in conjunction with a range of stakeholders, including local communities and civil society organizations. This exercise led to collection of over 40,000 guns from the warriors by January 2009. As a result of the exercise, the Karamoja region experienced relative peace for a decade, from 2009 to 2019. In addition, the government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Karamoja Affairs, Office of the Prime Minister, has since 2007 been implementing affirmative programs in Karamoja sub-region to improve its socio-economic development. The ministry specifically formulated and implemented the Karamoja Integrated Development Program, that is referred to as KIDP, and we are now going to the KIDP 3, which is about to be launched, whose overall aim was to contribute to human security and promote conditions for recovery and development of Karamoja after disarmament. Through the KIDP framework, the ministry coordinated different development interventions by government of Uganda and development partners in the region, which led to improvement in the socio-economic conditions of the people. The proportion of the population living in poverty reduced from over 80% before disarmament to 60.8% in 2019. However, from 2019, Karamoja has been experiencing interclan, cross-border conflicts, and armed cattle raids, which has led to escalation of insecurity in the region and neighboring districts. The situation has been exacerbated by formation of alliances and counter raids by different clans. There are bad alliances between the various ethnic groups in Karamoja and in the neighboring Kenya and South Sudan. In addition, cattle rustling has been commercialized with criminal elements at the forefront of trade in raided animals and illegal firearms from neighboring republics of South Sudan and Kenya. On 24th September 2021, His Excellency the President presided over a meeting of Karamoja region members of parliament, LC 5 chairpersons, and relevant sector MDAs to discuss interventions to restore security in Karamoja. The meeting discussed and agreed on interventions that government, through responsible MDAs, would undertake in a coordinated manner to restore security in the region. More specifically, the meeting agreed that the Ministry for Karamoja Affairs would provide alternative means of livelihood to reformed warriors and organize community engagements to promote peace in the region. The meeting further agreed that an emergency fund be availed to the Ministry of Karamoja Affairs to provide alternative means of livelihood to the reformed warriors in the form of goats and iron sheets, and intensify community peace building mobilization. In light of the above, Cabinet and Parliament appropriated a supplementary budget of Uganda shilling 39.9 billion to Ministry of Karamoja Affairs to contribute towards the pacification process, which was being undertaken by different government MDAs in Karamoja region. More specifically, the Ministry of Karamoja Affairs was required to provide alternative means of livelihood, that is, goats and iron sheets, to reformed warriors and organize and coordinate peace-building engagements in the region. Now I go to the issues. And Honorable Chair, at some times I'll be requesting some of my technical teams who are more engaged on the ground to chip in, to throw more light on some of the issues. So on issue 1, we were required to provide information on engagements with the leadership in Karamoja and development partners over the issues that bedevil Karamoja. 1, provide evidence of the various engagements with Karamoja leadership and other stakeholders to find lasting solutions to the problem of insecurity in the region. 2, provide evidence of resolutions arising from the said engagements. The response: the Ministry of Karamoja Affairs engages with Karamoja leadership and other stakeholders to find solutions to the insecurity in the region. Overall, under stakeholder engagements, the Ministry undertook the following initiatives. 1.1, consultative meetings with Karamoja leadership and other stakeholders in Karamoja sub-region. 1, there was a consultative meeting with His Excellency the President and Karamoja leadership. And His Excellency the President presided over 2 meetings, one at Morulinga State Lodge and another at State House Entebbe. Both meetings were attended by Karamoja region members of parliament, LC5 chairpersons, and other relevant sector MDAs. The meetings discussed and agreed on the interventions that government, through responsible line MDAs, would undertake to restore security in the region. Among other things, the meetings agreed that the Ministry of Karamoja Affairs would provide alternative means of livelihood, that is goats, and better living conditions, iron sheets, to reformed warriors and vulnerable households, respectively, and organize community engagements to promote peace in the region. Number 2, consultative meetings of honorable ministers for Karamoja Affairs, Defense and Veteran Affairs, and Karamoja MPs at the Chieftaincy of Military Intelligence in Mbuya was also held. And this meeting was convened on 10 February 2022 to discuss the roadmap for implementation of interventions that were agreed on at the meetings held at State House Entebbe and Morulinga State Lodge to restore peace in Karamoja sub-region. 3, there were consultative meetings of Honorable Minister of Karamoja Affairs, the Karamoja MPs at Office of the Prime Minister. This meeting was convened on 11 February 2022 to discuss the roadmap for implementation of interventions under Ministry of Karamoja Affairs that were agreed on at the meetings at State Lodge Entebbe and Morulinga State Lodge to restore peace in Karamoja sub-region. 4, consultative meeting of Karamoja MPs and Right Honorable Prime Minister. This meeting was held on 30th September 2022 at the Office of the Prime Minister to discuss the security situation in Karamoja and status of implementation of interventions to restore security in the region. Consultative meetings with Karamoja sub-region, development partners, and NGOs. The Minister of Karamoja Affairs chaired a series of meetings of Karamoja sub-region development partners and NGOs in both Kampala and Karamoja sub-region. The meetings discussed ways development partners and NGOs could work with the government of Uganda to restore and promote security in the Karamoja sub-region. Consultative meeting of Karamoja leaders, stakeholders, and Right Honorable Prime Minister. Now, Right Honorable Prime Minister chaired a meeting of Karamoja sub-region leaders and stakeholders at Hotel Africana, Moroto, in October 2022 to discuss the then hunger situation and insecurity in the region. Number 7, the Regional Council meeting. The Ministry organized and held a Karamoja Regional Council meeting on 17th and 18th March 2022 at Naitakwai Grounds, Moroto District, to review the security situation and adopt resolutions to solve the security challenge in the sub-region. Various presentations were made on the security situation and a number of resolutions were agreed upon. A copy of the minutes and resolutions are attached as Annex 1. The meeting was attended by representatives from all the 9 district councils of Karamoja, district chairpersons, mayors, districts and municipal councils. In attendance also were ministers, members of parliament, office of the prime minister staff, district local government technical staff, cultural and religious leaders, and various heads of the security agencies. Number 8, community peace building engagements. The ministry also held peace building engagements to bring together stakeholders at grassroots to discuss and find solutions to security threat in the region. The engagements include community peace building meetings, and here the ministry organized community peace building meetings in cattle rustling hotspots to mobilize communities at the grassroots for peace. The meetings were organized and held in Kotido, Kabong, Moroto, Nabiratuk, Amdat, and Nakapiripirit districts. Inter-district peace building meetings. The ministry also held inter-district peace building meetings to reconcile the warring clans, including the Kotido-Kabong meeting to reconcile the GA of Kotido and the Doth of Kabong, and Kotido Napak Moroto meeting to reconcile the GA of Kotido, Bokora of Napak, and Matheniko of Moroto. Warriors Karachuna retreats. In collaboration with the Catholic Church in Kabong, the ministry also held warrior retreats in Kabong, Moroto, and Napak to sensitize warriors against cattle rustling, as well as increase their awareness on the dangers and repercussions of the practice. Encourage the warriors to voluntarily hand over illegal firearms to authorities. Karamoja Women Peace Committee meetings. The ministry organized the meetings with Karamoja Women Peace Committees of Moroto and Napak as part of my ministry initiative to resolve the current security threat in the region. In each district, we invited 5 Women Peace Committee members for each sub-county and the local political leaders. The purpose of the meeting was to bring together women of peace who are key stakeholders in the disarmament process to discuss and find solutions to the current security threat. 9, the Karamoja Parliamentary Group peace building activities. The ministry also facilitated Karamoja Parliamentary Group to undertake pacification activities in the region to contribute towards peace building in the region. These included a reflection retreat for the KPG to review the ongoing pacification efforts in the region, 2 joint peace building community meetings in northern, central, and southern Karamoja, mop-up peace building mobilization campaigns by respective MPs at constituency level. Now I go to question number 2. On the UG 39 billion supplementary budget towards the pacification of Karamoja region, provide information on the 1, the purpose of the supplementary budget, then also to the amount released. So number 1, the purpose of the supplementary budget would contribute towards restoration of security and improvement in the livelihoods of the people in the Karamoja region. The specific objective of the interventions were 1, to provide livelihood support in form of goats and iron sheets to reformed warriors, commonly referred to as Karachunas, to enable them to integrate into their respective communities. 2, support the disarmament program in Karamoja through mobilization, persuasion, and sensitization of communities to promote peaceful coexistence and development in the region. Number 2, amount released. The amount of the Ministry of Finance released Uganda shillings 39.94 billion towards the implementation of pacification of interventions in Karamoja sub-region. And number 3, list of the intended beneficiaries of the iron sheets and goats by district, sub-county, parish, and village. the Office of the Prime Minister requested respective district local governments to generate lists of beneficiaries for goats and iron sheets, which were subsequently submitted to OPM, and a copy of the letter is attached as Annex 2. Local governments were required to identify 15 reformed warriors, those are the Karachunas, in each parish to be submitted, to be supported with goats, and 7 vulnerable households, that is women, elderly, and the youth, in each parish to be supported with iron sheets. And in each district, the chief administrative officer, that is the COW, was to constitute the district verification committee for selection of beneficiaries and distribution of items. The committee was to be composed of the LC5 chairperson, resident district commissioner, the district police commander, district internal security officer, Uganda People Defense Forces representative, and relative technical officers, relevant technical officers. At sub-county and parish level, the sub-county chief was to form a parish selection committee composed of the GISO, LC3 chairperson, parish chief, community development officer, that is the CDO, and opinion leaders, and LC1 chairpersons. So see Annex 3, that is in Volume 2, for copies of beneficiaries lists from respective districts. Now, Table 1 shows the summary of the number of beneficiaries that were received from the district compilation, that exercise. So for Abim district, the number of parishes are 72, and they submitted a number of 1,080 people to benefit under goats, and 504 to benefit on iron sheets. Amudat has 44 parishes. They submitted 660 and 308. Kabong, with 85 parishes, submitted 1,275 and then 595 for iron sheets. Karenga has 38 parishes, so the number of beneficiaries for goats were 570, and number of beneficiaries for iron sheets were 266. Kotido, with 77 parishes, submitted 1,155, and that is for goats, and then 539 for iron sheets. Moroto, 41 parishes, number of beneficiaries for goats was 615, and then iron sheets were 287. Nabiratuk, with 26 parishes, they submitted 390 for goats and 182 for iron sheets. Nakapiripirit, with 35 parishes, they submitted 525, that's for goats, and 245 for iron sheets. And finally, Napak, which has 59 parishes, submitted 885 beneficiaries for goats and 413 for iron sheets. So the total number of parishes was 477, and the beneficiaries for goats were 7,155, and those for iron sheets are 3,339. And we are required, I think, the technical team to provide information on the procurement process of goats and iron sheets, that is advertisements, list of bidders, list of successful bidders, justification for the selection of the best bidders, copies of award letters to the suppliers, copies of contracts, specifications of items that were supplied, that is goats and iron sheets, delivery notes of the items to areas of distribution, stock holding grounds, distribution lists, contract management reports, and contract performance report on the distribution. And Chair, At this time, I will request for support from the accounting officer who oversaw this exercise to take over from me and give more details on what went on. Accounting officer, if permission is granted.
Thank you, Honor. As the submission has been flowing, we submitted the copies of documents listed there with the clerk, that maybe I continue reading from the same script as the Honorable Minister has been reading, if permitted, Honorable Chair. Thank you. In regard to the procurement of goods, the Office of the Prime Minister followed the PPDA guidelines and regulations in the procurement process. We sourced terms of reference and technical specification for the supply of goods from the Zonal Agricultural Research and Development Institute at Nabuin. The terms of reference and technical specifications for the supply of goods were sourced from the Nabuin Zonal Agricultural Research and Development Institute, which is located in Moroto in Karamoja, and they have the knowledge and experience in goats breeding and rearing in the region. The annexes are available. The Institute advised the Office of the Prime Minister to consider 3 breeds for procurement that could improve production and productivity, as well as adaptability to the region. The goats varieties recommended were Gara East African, and Boer goats. The Institute also advised that all male goats should be Gara and the Boer goats to promote crossbreeding that would lead to improvement in the quality of the breeds of goats in the region. The Office of the Prime Minister advertised for domestic bids for framework contracts for the supply of all the 3 breeds of goats, and this was carried in leading newspapers in February. Honorable Chair, the year should be February 2022, not 21. And the annexure for the advert is available. A total of 93 local companies responded to the call, and after evaluation, 54 companies qualified to supply goods, and these were awarded framework contract agreements. The documentation to this is also attached in the annexure. As part of the terms and the conditions of the contracts, the contractors were responsible for transportation of the goods to the distribution sites. They were responsible also for security, loading, vaccination, and treatment of the animals before distribution under the supervision of the district veterinary officer. And now, all that, those requirements we are catering for the distribution, so the provider was the one to meet all of these expenses. The contractors were also required to replace any animal that would die during transportation and within the quarantine period, as well as goats that did not meet the minimum standards. The goats would then be received by the respective districts after certification of herd health by the district veterinary officer for distribution to the beneficiaries. The iron sheets. Honorable Chair, the Office of the Prime Minister sourced technical specification for pre-printed iron sheets from the Ministry of Works and Transport. The annexure is available. An advert was placed in leading dairies inviting domestic bids for the supply of iron sheets. The contract for the supply of the iron sheets was awarded to Messrs. Roofing Group Limited and Messrs. Integrated Steel Mills Uganda Limited for the supply of gauge 28 pre-painted iron sheets. Pre-painted, but also the colorless. These are the companies that supply iron sheets for all Office of the Prime Minister affirmative action interventions. The companies delivered in a total 95,044 pieces of iron sheets
Chair, proceed.
to the OPM stores in Namambe.
Intervention. Where are the annexes? Where are the annexes? With us?
Chair, I beg the clerk to.
How many copies? You give for members. They can look through. Have you made annexes for each of the reports you are giving us? It's one set. Okay. Annexes are supposed to be attached per years, per copy.
We took a note, Honorable Chair, but it was due to the volume that we could not figure it out. The volume was big.
But this issue has more volume than the papers.
Okay, we can reproduce, Chair, if you allow. We can provide them only that now. The time.
Okay, let the available copy be moving around. Yes, give out my copy.
Madam Chair, we beg that since you have one volume for annexes, they finished the report. I think you shall interrogate in your own good time. Yeah. Or if you can agree, we shall bring them later.
Yes, Honorable SAGA.
Chair, procedurally, they could have come with all annexes for every member. And you know, these are concerns of billions and billions of money, which you may not rely on one copy for all of us to begin internalizing. That means you are now limiting us to be some of the issues to raise to you, because you shall not be privileged to look at the annexes, digest them, then raise the concern back to you. You are now limiting us. That means you are going to delay our committee work. That again, we have to get time, then go through one by one, or the committee makes more copies. So procedurally, Chair, they could have brought us enough copies for that matter.
Yes, Honorable.
Yes, Chair. I wanted just to advise the team that has come that this is in their interest to provide as much information as possible so that we deal away with them at once. Otherwise, we might not be able to ask them exhaustively because we are not privy to most of the information in those documents. Otherwise, they will keep coming here each other day until we are through with it. So, my suggestion is they better run around and provide all these documents that's required to each and every member of this committee. Then we proceed. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Minister.
Madam Chair, I think we shall be able to endeavor to bring the copies to all the members of the committee. Maybe there was no time, but we are going to make sure that we get accounting officer.
Honorable Chair, sorry for having not got it right. Because we delivered that copy yesterday. So with that noting, I have set an officer to go. They continue to reproduce. So I beg for your indulgence that as they bring, you guide on the next course of action.
Okay, but it has implication because we shall keep asking the same questions as we discuss. It will be good for you to present, make reference to the attachment, and also explain. But if you are going to say it is attached in this annex, and without looking at that annex, we shall still ask the same questions. So as you are presenting, be mindful. Honorable colleagues, the analysis of these annexes cannot be done within shortest period of time. So let us allow them to print more. Then after this interface, let's have in-house meeting. Yes, let's have in-house meeting.
Procedure, Madam
Thank you,
Chair.
Chair, for your
Yes.
intervention.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I have noticed that before us we have the two ministers, and we are dealing with an investigative matter. We need to hear from each of them, and for this matter, Honorable Chair, I would say, is it procedurally correct to have them together at the same time? Or I would request that one of them, like who was not yet presented, can move out. Then we first deal with, we listen from one, and we call the other one later. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Okay, thank you. We have invited these people in two capacities. Both of them are still in office. We are still receiving issues from the ministry. But after that, we shall handle the issues of specific allegations against them. That is when we shall now ensure that the two appear at different times. But now they are giving submissions as office. And the good thing is we have the lead minister. And we presume this is a jointly prepared document. We are looking at them as a ministry yet. After that, we shall interrogate them for specific allegations against them. Yeah, thank you. Can we proceed?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Procurement of iron sheets. The Office of the read up to the company that were given, offered the framework agreements to supply iron sheets. Part 5 was the distribution per item. Part 7, number of votes and their location. Number of votes rejected and number of votes that died. In regard to Part A, delivery of goats, a total of 74,400 goats were delivered and distributed to beneficiaries in the region. Before distribution, the goats were inspected by the district veterinary officers to confirm that they met minimum specifications. The goats were also treated and vaccinated before distribution. A number of goats which did not meet the minimum standards were rejected by the DVOs and replaced by the suppliers. In Table 2, we provided a summary of the goats distribution status by district. Number 1, Abin, there were 1,080 beneficiaries, and the goats distributed were 60,600. Number 2, Amudat district, number of beneficiaries 660, goats distributed 7,500. Number 3, Kabong district, number of beneficiaries 1,275, and 10,000 goats were distributed. Number 4, Kalenga district, number of beneficiaries were 570, number of goats 5,500. Number 5, Kotido district, Number of beneficiaries, 1,155. Goats distributed, 14,300. Number 6, Moroto District. Number of beneficiaries, 615. Goats distributed, 7,000. Number 7, Nabiratuk District. Number of beneficiaries, 390. Goats distributed, 6,000. Number 8, Nakapuliprit District. Number of beneficiaries, 525. Goats distributed, 7,000. Number 9, Napaka District. Number of beneficiaries, 885. Goats distributed, 9,500. Therefore, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, the total of 74,400 goats were distributed in total. Part B, delivery and distribution of iron sheets. The Office of the Prime Minister has so far released 20,500 iron sheets from the stores, and of these 6,000 were delivered to Moroto, were delivered in Karamoja, of which 1,000 in Moroto and 5,000 in Nakapilipilish districts. The balance of 14,500 was distributed as donations by the Honorable Minister. The Office of the Prime Minister is in the process of delivering the remaining 74,544 iron sheets in stores, and these are intended to benefit 3,339 beneficiaries. The challenge here, Honorable Chairperson and members, in the process of obtaining input from stakeholders, we got submissions from the district government and from the honorable members of parliament. And the numbers submitted, when added up, exceed what the available iron sheets can meet. So there is still an ongoing harmonization to arrive at final numbers. That's why this quantity is still in stores. As submitted already by the Honourable Minister, stakeholders are involved to arrive at beneficiary lists.
Who are the stakeholders?
The district government, that is chairperson, is LC5. The honourable members of parliament from the region, Karamoja, and the others, the ministers themselves, but principally it is the district government and the honourable members of parliament. And the submission is from the two sides, majorly district government and the honourable members of parliament. When added, they exceed the quantity which we have. So harmonization is still ongoing to agree on the final number, then we release the iron sheets. But in Nakapilipilit, we have so far released some portion.
So you are saying you are waiting to harmonize the list?
To conclude the lists, yes.
For the beneficiaries?
Yes, for iron sheets, but for goats it was concluded.
Okay.
I continue.
Yes, proceed. Members, you have heard.
Which was requested and passed was 135 billion. But I can only say that maybe because of constraints, Ministry of Finance has so far not covered even 50%.
You lied to Parliament? Because if it was appropriated by Parliament as 135 to manage the famine situation in Karamoja for 3 months, then how did it go back to Cabinet to be spread for the whole country?
No, to come to Parliament, it began with the Cabinet.
But what did you present to Parliament? What was
Honourable Chair, it is the Minister of Finance who presents to Cabinet.
But you are benefiting
Yes.
ministry. tell us what was presented to Parliament.
We can submit that, Honorable Chair.
Members, we are to ensure implementation of parliamentary season. So we need that information. You are the benefiting ministry. You needed to know. Okay. Thank you for the submission. But we still believe that our figure is 135 to manage issues in Karamoja for the 3 months. The 3 months have passed. You have to, apart from the money issues, you have also to brief us about the situation now. Has the farming reduced? What is it? Now the floor is open. I'm going to give opportunity for members. And when I give you ones, I'll not go back because we are so many. Honorable Tony, Benjamin, then Dennis. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, for giving me this opportunity. On page 12, there is a presentation about 814,802,920 shillings earmarked for transportation. Honorable Chair, this morning when we hosted the UPDF, some very interesting scenario came up. The team from the UPDF said the Honorable Minister went to the 3rd Division headquarters and requested the UPDF to come in and facilitate in the process of the distribution of these relief items. Now we are here saying that 814 million plus was earmarked for transportation. I want to understand exactly how this relationship with the UPDF came up to help facilitate the process of distributing this money. Did you give this money to the UPDF to carry out the transportation, or you did not actually use this money but took advantage of the UPDF to do the work? The Honorable Chair, on page 11, there was a mention which was made on 14,500 ions that donate these iron sheets, because this did not come out very clearly in the presentation. Honorable Minister, to whom did you donate these iron sheets? And who actually authorized the donation of these iron sheets? If you have the MOU, you have the minutes where you sat and agreed that you donate 14,500 iron sheets, we would need actually those documentations. And then, Honorable Chair, we also met the Uganda prisons. They told us that in store, just like we've just confirmed in your presentation, the 2,005 bags, which here you have stated in tonnage, 205 tons, which is still in store. And this was from 2020, 2021. These relief items in store. Yet people are dying in the neighborhood. People are dying in the backyard. Can we say you are part of the process of abating some of these processes of hunger in Karamoja? How do you hold all these quantities of relief items in the store and you fail to distribute them to the vulnerable people of Karamoja? And then finally, Honorable Chair, the issue of the distribution of the goods. In the report, you stated that NARO, and then is it the Nabin Zonal Agricultural Research and Development Institutes, which has got widespread knowledge and experience in goat
dated 3rd May 2022. This letter was written by one Mr. Degracious Masagazi and was writing to the Commissioner General of Prisons. It was a letter to release food from the stores of prisons and give them to one called Amodoi Peter, who is with us here, I think, according to the introductions I had. Honorable Chair, my question here is, where did Mr. Amodoi deliver the food items? If he can provide the details of receipt to this committee, delivery note signed by the cow or the representative. The other question, Mr. Mr. Amodoi Peter doesn't show any position he holds in this ministry, according to the letter. So I would like to understand also his position in this ministry from the human resource personnel. Honorable Chair and colleagues, the other issue on 7th June last year, that's when the President launched this distribution of items to the region of Karamoja. And he promised the people that it will take 3 weeks for the iron sheets and other things to be delivered. So my question to the minister is that why has it taken 9 months to deliver the intended items to the beneficiaries? The other one is a letter written by the Honorable Minister dated 12th January 2023, where she was requesting for 12,200 iron sheets for the activity in January in Karamoja, and of which this activity was about sensitization and mobilization. And these iron sheets were issued on 24th January 2023. Now the question to the Honorable Minister is, where did you take these iron sheets since they were not delivered to Karamoja? The other question is on page 11 of the document that has just been provided to us.
Maybe she repeats.
On page 11, the letter of the minister The Honorable Minister wrote a letter on 12th January 2023 requesting for 12,200 iron sheets, and they are issued on 24th January 2023.
They were issued by...
I beg your pardon?
Okay.
You respond. So the question is, why did you take these iron sheets if they are not delivered to Karamoja? And when we look at page 11 of the presentation just delivered to us, page 11, the Undersecretary presented that the balance, the remaining iron sheets to be delivered to stores is 74,544, which is contradicting to the statement that was released, the press release issued on 21st February 2023. That release showed that the balance of the iron sheets was 71,144. So there is a deficit of 3,400 iron sheets. We need clarification from the Honorable Minister and team on this. And lastly, Honorable Chair, the supplementary of 39 billion was intended for 3 areas. 1, the iron sheets, the goats, and the sensitization and mobilization. So here the question is, if the minister can provide to us the actuals on the goats, the actual amount on the iron sheets, and the actual amount on mobilization and sensitization. Honorable Chair, I beg to submit.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I want to draw your attention to page 10, the second paragraph, where it says OPM advertised for domestic bidding, and they had local companies of 93. Honorable Minister, you'll have to tell us, when you talk of local companies, are these the companies within Karamoja sub-region, or which local, or Uganda as a locality? You'll have to tell us what companies, the type of companies that supplied the goods. Number two, Honorable Minister, I watched through TV when they were launching the goats and the food items in Karamoja. But I was very surprised that I never saw any member of parliament from Karamoja sub-region. Honorable Minister, why did you leave the representative of the people when you were launching such a beautiful project that was meant for the local Karachunas of Karamoja? Lastly, in page 12, you talked of release of funds that you received 20 billion. But the Honorable Minister has just left here. He said he first gave 20 billion, and this quarter he has also released 20 billion. I expected you people to have told us that we have received 20 billion, which will be either used either for buying more iron sheets to distribute to your friends, or the 20 billion is still in the account. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'm going to restrict myself to giving information. Information number one. When I analyze the food production by Uganda Prison Services, over that period of time, they released to them about 2.4 billion shillings, and they were able to produce 1,648.2 metric tons of maize. My mathematics tells me that it costed them 148 shillings to produce a kilogram of maize grain, which I think is a very good initiative. I just wanted to appreciate that initiative, that it is possible for the government of Uganda to produce grain to feed these children at 148 shillings per kilogram. Two, I just want to say, I wanted this committee to know that a donation, a definition of a donation, is something that is given to a charity arising from an appeal. So it is a demand-driven initiative, which must be occasioned by someone requesting for it. This is just for your information, so that when you look at the donations that are talked about, you should know that every donation must have been occasioned by a demand. But of course, the donation cannot compete with a need. If there had been a need, they shouldn't have risen any donation. Then the other one is, whenever a delivery is made for any supply of goods, or even services for that matter, at the point of receiving these goods or services, there must be a team to verify. And this team must be having the professional capacity, which is that there should be a technical verification should be carried out to guarantee the technical specifications that were drawn in the purchase order. So this applies to both iron sheets. It can apply to goods for this matter, by involving professionals in that field. I also want to say, abuse of office is engaging in an omission or commissioning an act arising from holding a responsibility or holding that office or superintending over a responsibility. And when you carry out that omission or you commission that act, you have committed an act that is outside the precincts of the law or the provisions of the law. And when it is outside the provisions of the law, it becomes something unlawful. And it also involves acting in a way that you put self-seeking interests, whereby whatever you commission or an omission that you have committed is putting your own interest above the interest of the people that that particular act should have done. And an example for this matter is you are supposed to deliver iron sheets, goods for the people of Karamoja, but because you have your self-interests, you put that ahead of or in place of the interests of the people that delivery should have gone. Lastly, I also want to say mismanagement is a significant failure to direct or control a responsibility or an institution or organization that you're running, or significantly failing to carry out an activity that you have been charged by virtue of the office you are holding. And I just thought that I would give this information to this committee. Thank you very much, Chair.
The last information, and we come to this side.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairperson, for giving us this opportunity.
Give the information, but don't go to
I am seeking clarification.
Yes.
Chapter 4 of our Constitution provides for the protection and promotion of fundamental and other human rights and freedoms of citizens. And under Article 32, it provides for affirmative action in favor of marginalized groups. And paragraph 1 states that notwithstanding anything in this Constitution, the state shall take affirmative action in favor of groups marginalized on the basis of gender, age, disability, or any other reason created by history, tradition, or custom for the purpose of redressing imbalances which exist against them. And I believe the Minister was aware of these provisions of our Constitution when she took that mantle. And we can confirm that in our presentation to this committee, under response 1.1 on community engagements with the leadership of Karamoja, she clearly states that there were consultative meetings with His Excellency the President and the Karamoja leadership over meetings in Morulinga State Lodge and another in Entebbe. And both meetings were attended by Karamoja region members of parliament, LC5 chairpersons, and relevant MDAs. The meeting discussed and agreed on the interventions that government, through responsible line MDAs, would undertake to restore security in the region. But the key thing here to note, Chairperson, is, among other things, the meetings agreed that the Ministry of Karamoja Affairs would provide alternative means of livelihoods, in bracket, goats, and better living conditions, in bracket, iron sheets, to reformed warriors and vulnerable households, respectively, and organize community engagements to promote peace in the region. And the clarification I'm seeking here, Madam Chairperson, is if the list of the 14,500, the beneficiaries of 14,500 iron sheets were people intended to be uplifted and given better living conditions, I was seeking that clarification from the Minister. Then the second one is, we had the prison services here in the morning, and they provided the list of how the food was given out. And also, as petitioners, we provided a list. And in that list, all the food seems not to have gone to the intended beneficiaries. And when you compare the list of the Undersecretary to Nepal, to the Commissioner of Prisons, indicating that this kind of food should be given out to the following beneficiaries. There's a list, a long list, it doesn't, and of course under the supervision of Peter Modoi, it doesn't clearly show. The two do not match. The list from Namalu prisons is showing different areas, whoever picked the food and where the food was going. Whereas the directive of the Undersecretary Deo is showing a different list of beneficiaries. So I was seeking that clarification. Thank you.
Stella?
Yeah. I want to thank the Minister for our submission. I just want to state in the committee that the 1,000 iron sheets that is said to have come to Moroto came to Moroto, and they came purposely for the launch.
Can you speak louder?
And they came purposely for the launch. And it is true that 650 iron sheets were given to 25 Karachuna. There were also Karachuna that got some goats. That was during the launch. Only that I don't know the number of goats that were got during the launch. The balance of the iron sheets, the 350, it's true, I also saw it in the office of the OPM 1 month ago. I don't know apparently whether
Can you adjust the mic?
Adjust it. Yes. But when you go to page 4 of 14, the minister has stated that there was money for routine annual budgets from the Ministry of Karamoja that bought 10,000 iron sheets. And there was also these monies that were meant to, of the 39 billion, that were meant to help in the issue of settling the insecurity situation in Karamoja. Now, my concern is the mixing of this 10,000, the budget of the routine budget of Ministry of Karamoja, and then the 39 billion budget actually might fail the investigation, might confuse the investigation. So I want the committee to take note of that so that we don't mix, because the budget, the routine budget is different from the 39 billion shillings. So let's take note of that, not to get confused. And then when you look at the distribution of goods, stated annex, that is annex 2, page 8. It's well laid, but it's well laid. You'd find that it's the number of goods that went to that district totals to 67,900. There is 5,500 that are hanging, but I've never heard that there is a holding ground somewhere that is keeping the 5,500 goods. Then when you sum all this together with the hanging numbers, it sums to 73,400, meaning that there is 1,000 goods that are missing. So it's better you give us that clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. The last.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. As a member of the Karamoja Parliamentary Group, I'm actually glad that I am meeting my ministers today. And the rest of the meetings that we have been having, it was like they were coerced under, I don't know, whatever pressures. But I'm so glad that I'm meeting them now. Just to clarification again, on page 9, there is an allusion that Nabuin Sonal Agricultural Institute was used to provide terms of reference. I am wondering what happened with the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Husbandry and Fisheries to be able to provide those references, terms of references for the goats. I also want to be able to provide information that for 2 weeks we were held, 3 of us, Honorable Rene Achia, Honorable Ben Barton, and myself, working on the supplementary budget together with officers of the Office of the Prime Minister. Unfortunately, after the money came, that was the point of departure. I think they had actually got what they wanted. But the planning figures were 534 parishes. For the 2 weeks, we actually spent a lot of time planning for the supplementary budget on the basis of 534 parishes. Now, the other bit is on page 12, office of the, page 13, there is an indication that part of the money that was released to Namalu Prisons Farm was actually used for the renovation of the store. A while ago, we had the Commissioner of Prisons indicating that all those budgets were actually for production. So I would interest the committee to interest themselves to ask how much of the budget was actually for the renovation of the stores, just like they indicate. About the same time when Karamoja was facing the hardest time and death were actually increasing as a result of the drought and the famine, there was the Bugishu floods. I would wish that the committee interests itself to find out the 45.5% of the food meant for the supplementary budget. At what point was it actually issued? Because it would be interesting to know that the ministers that we are talking about are coming from the Bugishu region. Perhaps the pain of the Bugishu people was much more than the one of the dying Karamoja. We are actually, up to now, I've not been able to get that provision, as it were, as we had actually asked from the Parliament. So these are the things that I wanted to be able to allude to. And the very final, yes?
The last point is not clear.
The last point I actually indicated is that the 45.5% on page 12 of the amount of the release for the purchase of the food went to other regions other than the intended region. Remember, the budget of the 135 was for Karamoja purely. And it was actually a calculation of the Minister of Disaster Preparedness under the instruction of the President. She was asked, how much do you think, how much food is required to make people in Karamoja to survive for 3 months? That is the reason why we actually came up with the 135 billion budget for food. Now, when the money was released, the 20 million, just like I said, the 20 billion, it was about the same time when the Bugishu floods had actually hit the region. And the office of the Prime Minister, or the Prime Minister, chose to actually rush to Bugishu, forgetting that Karamoja had actually suffered the worst of the times in terms of the death. So my question is...
So in summary, you are saying at the same time the food was taken to Bugishu sub-region?
What I'm actually trying to indicate is that 45.5% of the food that was purchased was not delivered to the region. Yeah, it was taken to other regions. And yet the reason for the release of that money was specifically to serve the purpose of the dying people of Karamoja. Thank you.
Maybe clarification. What my colleague is talking about is the money did not, it was used actually for the entire country. They didn't use it specifically for Karamoja. So part of that budget was for Karamoja, but mainly that money was meant for buying food for that region. That was part of the money that came out. So that is why he's trying to clarify.
We shall ask for the performance of the 20 billion. Can we come this side? Sasaga, you have contributed.
Just a procedural issue.
Let me have Honorable David. Chair, you will come later. Then Nancy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair allowed me also to concur with my colleagues for the good submission that they have given. Madam Chair, aware that the situation of Karamoja has not been very well, which definitely has been affecting the neighboring districts. The neighboring districts have been going through have been abducting people, raping women, killing people, taking the cattle. Now, on the 24th of 2021, the leaders of Karamoja had a meeting with the president because of the concerns to address the challenges that the Karamoja have been going through. Now, they had an agreement. The agreement is for the government to release, I wanted to find out from the OPM, because after the money has been released to purchase the goats and buy the iron seats. Now, there were only 2 districts that received the iron seats. That is Moroto and Nakapereperet. What's happened to the rest of the other districts? Because given the period of time, it is 9 months now. This is emergency situation. We are responding to emergency situation. For these people's life to change, for them to stop the issue of going to the neighboring district, disturbing their peace and security. Now, that not yet provided iron seat to the rest of the district for these people to change. What's happened? That is number 1. 2, now in your statements earlier on, I was actually in your submission, you told the committee clearly that some of the iron seats were donated. And I also wanted to find out whether the iron seat donated, were they donated to the warriors, the raiders, or they were donated to some other people? Because it was meant for the warriors. And I don't know the priority, your selection criteria. First of all, to give a donation maybe to the people who are not warriors. And yet the iron seat was meant specifically for the warriors. I need a clarification on that. What was your priority in reference to that? And in reference to the minutes of the cabinet meeting? And in reference to the minutes of the meeting where the president had with the leaders of Karamoja? I need a clarification on that. And then apart from that, earlier on in